What's going on, guys? It's JKM coming at you with my first pre-combine mock draft. This is going to be my mock draft 1.0. Before we get started, let me go ahead and tell you guys to hit that like button and subscribe to my channel. What I plan on going on from here is to be doing a lot of mock drafts, kind of reacting to mock drafts, doing news. I plan to be letting out my top risers of the combine and the top disappointments kind of and the falls of the people that will be there, such as freaks that we think will be testing out great, like Ikem Iguanu. So I'm going to go ahead and hop into my first mock draft. This is my pre-combine 1.0. So starting out here with the Jaguars, what are they going to do? So they got their new fresh quarterback, Trevor Lawrence, that they had just drafted number one overall last year, back to back picks. What's the first guy they're going to do? You think they can go edge rusher? They could, but I think the most logical reason is to take Evan Neal and protect Trevor Lawrence here. So that's who I think is going to be the first pick. I think that also if Icky has a really good combine, he can rise up the board and go number one as well. But that's just something how we're going to have to see with testing out there. And Evan Neal also is not performing, so we could have some recency bias. And if Icky comes out testing amazing, then he could rise up to number one. Number two, you got the Detroit Lions and Dan Campbell. I think that this is the perfect fit coming from the University of Michigan. You have a high motor guy that I think Dan Campbell is going to fall in love with, and that is going to be coming off the edge, Aiden Hutchinson. I think that would make it a lot better on the defense for the Detroit Lions with Dan Campbell coaching them. Moving on to number three, you got the Houston Texans in this case. Now, this is another spot where you could debate positional value. They could take Icky if they look to trade Laremy Tunsil, or if they want to try to establish a right tackle, or for the future, in a similar case like the Jets, if you move on from the left tackle next year, then Icky can move over to the other side, or you could go edge and you could go Kayvon Thibodeau. You could go positional value, but I think with Justin Reed leaving in free agency is what it's starting to look like. I think that they look to fill that. You got Lovey Smith, the former defensive coordinator, taking over as the head coach. I think that they go with Reed's replacement and take best player on their board, and that would be Kyle Hamilton, the ball hulking safety that plays up by the line of scrimmage and runs down pretty much every play. Now, let's go with the Jets on the board. What do you think that they'll do? Being a Jets fan, it's been long and miserable, but two top 10 picks looks pretty good. And I think it comes down between Icky and KT. It's going to be very hard to pass up on Icky. I really love Icky. He's a great run blocker. He's a baller in the run game. And if Mekhi Becton doesn't work out, then you could potentially use him to flip over to the other side to take his spot. And he could take that right guard for the rookie year and then start to edge out to the tackles position. But I think edge, they've been looking for an edge since about 2005. John Abraham, I think, was our last great edge. So I think we're going to go Kayvon Thibodeau would be a great pick. Giants, I think a lot of Giants fans want them to double dip offensive line. You could look for Charles Cross. Charles Cross would have really good pass blocking, being that Mike Leach offense, having to do it that often. But I think best player available at this point would be Icky. All right, Mahler in the run game, play tackle. You got Andrew Thomas on one side. You can go Icky at right tackle, or you could put him in there at guard. Whichever one you would want to do. Allows a lot of versatility on the offensive line. Panthers, they have Darnold. That's the big question mark. Donald does not. Darnold does not look too good. All right, he's a lot of people want to blame the Jets. I think it's a little bit of both. So I think that they go try to protect it and get the quarterback ready for next year. Take one in next year's draft or in free agency and go Charles Cross. As I said, with the pass blocking being that Mike Leach often offense, you're asked to do pass blocking quite often. So I think that would be a good spot for him to fall. Giants, what are you gonna do? I think you either go double dip at offensive line or you go edge in this case. Could it be George Karlaftis? That's a guy that's starting to fall a little bit for some reason. There's just guys kind of shooting up ahead of him, like Jermaine Johnson, stuff like that. Or you got Tyler Linderbaum. Positional value. Center is just one of those positions that's kind of like safety. It's just not looked at. I believe Mel Kiper had them taking Devin Lloyd. I kind of like it. I like Devin Lloyd, but I think he's going to fall a little bit more. And I think that they are going to go with an edge position. Um, I don't see him right now. I think the edge that they're going to go with is David Ajabo. He's kind of one of those raw prospects, but has that very high ceiling that if he can put it all together, he is going to be a monster. All right, he might be a little raw at first, but once you teach him that how to use his hands and his explosiveness, he's going to have that high ceiling. Falling to the Falcons, I think pretty much the lock that everybody's having them taken is getting an AJ Terrell counterpart with the cornerbacks. If the board falls like this, the top two that would be on the board right now would be Derek Stingley, who he's just kind of not really put much out there since his freshman year in 2019, I believe. You had the 2020 COVID year, and then you had 2021. He had that injury. Now he's not performing at the combine either, just like Evan Neal. He could fall a little bit, but he is doing the medical test. That's going to be his biggest situation. I think that they go with Derek Stingley out of LSU. I think the medicals check out and they end up going with him. Now, the Broncos, this is one of the first landing spots that you could see a quarterback realistically. There's all the Aaron Rodgers rumors that they might trade for Aaron Rodgers. I just don't see it happening. In the last couple of days, it's been coming out more that them and the Aaron Rodgers and the Packers are actually starting to look for a short contract extension. So I think that they also will go with the first linebacker off the board. And I think that they fill a position of need with Devin Lloyd, who will be all over the field. Him watching him at Utah, he's just all over the field. He has a fumble recovery for touchdown. He had a pick six. He makes about every play. They're coming back up with the New York Jets, another top 10 pick, second of the draft. I think as a Jets fan, what you're looking at, do you want to provide Zach Wilson with weapons or do you go double defense? You already got Kayvon Thibodeau. I think if they end up getting Icky at 4, then it's guaranteed to be a defensive player. But if you have KT, you might look to go receiver like a Drake London, try to get Zach Wilson some weapons. But I think Sauce Gardner is just too good to pass up. He's got that long, lengthy build. Salah's going to like that in his defense. He has that man-like coverage, although Salah doesn't run too much man. He runs more zone. You still are going to want to be able to put him up against somebody, and he's just going to lock him down. All right. He's never allowed a touchdown in his collegiate career at Cincinnati. I think with the Jets having 34 and 38, I believe, are the picks that they have in the early second round. I think that you can actually provide those weapons later on with Trey McBride. And if he falls as Zion Johnson or so, but I think Zion Johnson will go at the end of the first round, as you'll see later in this mock draft. Moving on to number 11, the Washington Commanders. Now, this is the first spot where I think a quarterback will go. You already seen Malik Willis rise up in the Senior Bowl. That's really rose his stock. You got Kenny Pickett. He's got the issues with his hand size that everybody makes a fit about. They made a fit about it with Joe Burrow. So I think that Kenny Pickett at the combine will get shown up by Malik Willis. I think Malik Willis will show off that arm talent that he has, and he'll end up being the first quarterback off the board to the Commanders. Now you got the Vikings. I think that they tried to clear up their secondary. Now you just hired an offensive guy in O'Connell, but I still think that they're going to go defense with Trent McDuffie sitting there on the board. Great corner out of Washington with his speed, his nice size. I think he's about 5'11", although he's not as big as Gardner. He's still big enough to get it done. So I think that they'll go Trent McDuffie there. Now, the Cleveland Browns, Mel Kiper in his mock draft, he recently had them trading up to number 9 with the Broncos to jump the Jets to try to get a receiver. But in my mock draft, they actually have all the receivers fall to them. So it's quite nice. They don't have to give up any capital trade up. I think you could be losing Jarvis Landry. You look for that big body guy, help out Baker Mayfield and potentially his replacement next year in the draft if he does not have a very good year. And I think you go with Drake London with the speed and the size, the jump ball catch that he has, and the ability to just come down with it if you just lob it up his way. He had insane stats before he got injured. Moving on to the Ravens, I think getting Lamar some protection would be the way to go. It has DB. They might need DB, but you got Marcus Peters coming back. You got a lot of people coming back from injuries on the Ravens. They're going to be much improved. I think that you look to help Lamar Jackson, not have him have to use his legs as much, hopefully stay in the pocket, go through his read, and be more comfortable in there, not having to run around. Even though that's when he's at his best, I still think it's to try to protect him from being injured potentially. I think you go Linderbaum. And then you got a center set for the next 10 years. Next, you have the Eagles, the first of their 3 first round picks at 15. I think you're looking for edge and linebacker in this situation. Third one, you're either looking for corner or receiver, whichever one's the best one on the board. And I think right here that with the back-to-back picks doesn't really matter which ones you take. But I think that they go Trayvon Walker. This dude's a freak. He's got the power to just go over anybody, and he's just got the ability to be a dominant edge rusher in the league. 16th overall pick you got from Carson Wentz, back-to-back picks going on here. I think you got a speedster. They're going to go back-to-back Georgia players, and Nakobe Dean is going to be the guy that just flies around the field and just makes all the plays. Kind of similar to Devin Lloyd. He's just always in there, but much faster, much better speed to be able to get to the play. Although I do think Devin Lloyd is ranked a little bit higher than him. Chargers, this is one of the most common ones now. Do you think that they go receiver trying to find the Mike Williams replacement? Do they get Mike Williams back? What goes on there? This is something that can change after free agency that's coming up next week. But as of right now, I think that they try to get themselves a run stopper and they go Jordan Davis. Big guy, big athletic guy, huge, can stop up a hole, be good in run defense. Brandon Staley is going to very much like this on the front line of his defense. Saints, they stick with Jameis Winston, so we try to give him some help at receiver. I think that they start to go quarterback, and I think that this is finally where Kenny Pickett will go. I think the Steelers are in play to be able to jump up past the Saints. The Steelers are in contention to maybe trade up with the Jets to try to pass the Commanders to get Malik Willis caught. There's been a lot of reports the Steelers actually are in love with Malik Willis, and that's who they prefer. But that's just something we'll have to see in the next couple months until the draft hits in late April. I think the Saints will go Kenny Pickett. Now you got the Eagles, the last pick. You don't have any receivers or corners go off the board, so you're pretty much going who is the best guy on your board. Just take a pick of which receiver. You got the 2 Ohio State guys, Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave. You could go Andrew Booth. You got a couple corners. I think with Trent McDuffie going, this would be a place if he potentially falls. This would be somewhere that he could go. But with all the receivers on the board, I think that they go with one of my favorites, one that I think the Jets might potentially be able to trade back and get. I think it's going to be Treylon Burks, a big guy, can run after the catch. He just has that ability to just make plays. You get the ball in his hands, and he's just going to make a play. Steelers, Big Ben retired. You got reports that they believe in Mason Rudolph, but I just don't buy it. Could be a smokescreen. They love Malik Willis. Will they trade up to get him? But I think the main guy they go after is Matt Corral. If unless the quarterbacks start to fall, and then I think that they'll take either Pickett or Malik Willis. But the way that the board's fallen, I think that they're going to go Matt Corral. Patriots, they're a weird team. They could go out and sign a Chris Godwin in free agency, try to get that number one. They could go edge to try to solidify it. But I think with Garrett Wilson falling to them, get Mac Jones some help, make it to where he doesn't have to make as many plays. Just kind of read that Tom Brady role, pick apart the defense. The Raiders, they could go corner, they could go edge. I think that they will actually go corner. I think that they go with another Clemson corner that could end up pretty badly. But I think that they're going to go with Andrew Booth to try to beef up that secondary, try to help them out a little bit. Uh, Arizona Cardinals, they're looking for edge. You got the Kyler Murray issue going on. Do you try to help him with some offensive line? I think that Trevor Penning could be a guy that could go here to try to help Kyler Murray. But right here, one of the biggest risers from the Senior Bowl, along with Malik Willis, I think that they need to get an edge. You got Chandler Jones. You heard some stuff about him coming out before the season that he may be looking for another payday. You get Jermaine Johnson in there for a year, and then you could potentially let Chandler Jones go. Although he balled out last year, you try to find that replacement. He's getting up there in age. Dallas Cowboys. Do you try to protect Dak? What are you going to do here? You try to beef up the linebacker, the secondary. I think that this is potentially a place for a safety. They had a lot of issues with that secondary last year. I think one guy that I really love is safety Daxton Hill from Michigan. I must have passed him. I don't see him. So I think secondary would be a good place to go. I think offensive line, you could look at Trevor Penning potentially. You got Brisker. He's a very good safety that the Cowboys could go in that way. But I think the way that the board's going to fall, I think that they will go edge and go Karlaftis to try to get somebody opposite Demarcus Lawrence and try to get somebody in there that can get after the pass rusher. Um, so then you got the Bills. They're looking for either receiver, potentially offensive line, and try to protect Josh Allen, or they could be looking for a receiver to go with Cole Beasley and Stephon Diggs. I think they go Ryman from Central Michigan. Guy's a beast. Could be a very good tackle. Pretty good fit up there in Buffalo. Titans, you got another guy, offensive line or edge. I think that they will try to beef up their interior defensive line and go Devontae Wyatt. Tampa Bay Buccaneers, you're going to lose Chris Godwin. You could lose Carlton Davis. There's a lot of guys in this area that could go to try to fill a need that you're going to lose in free agency. I think that the main one, kind of like a Chris Godwin role, depending on who they get at quarterback, this guy might sit out a little bit because of the ACL injury that he had in the national championship game, but he would have had a big game if he was healthy. Jameson Williams. You still got Chris Olave on the board. Do they finally get that first round receiver that Aaron Rodgers has been looking for? I think Aaron Rodgers stays with the Green Bay Packers as of right now. So I think that they actually try to get him some protection and go Trevor Penning and try to get him more of a stand up position so he doesn't have to run around. You got the Miami Dolphins with the 49ers trade, which they should have never traded back up with the 49ers, because obviously they would have had one in the mid teens. Now they're in the late 29s because the 49ers ended up going. You got Tua. What's going to be going on there? You got a run heavy coach in Mike McDaniel. I think one guy to keep out is Trevor Penning if he does fall to this point. Mike McDaniel could want to establish the run. That could be a good guy for them. But he's obviously off the board. I think the guy that you go with is the best receiver available, and that is Chris Olave. Now you got the Kansas City Chiefs. They could go multiple types of ways and try to improve that roster, try to get back to the Super Bowl. You got Kenyon Green, but last year in the draft, they had 2 hits on the interior D-line with Creed Humphrey and Trey Smith. So you're not really looking for the offensive line anymore. They could look for Brisket to kind of take that Tyrann Mathieu role. Are they going to pay him? And then you got Jackson Hill, another guy that I think is going to be a safety in the league. They have him listed as a corner, but I think he's going to be more of a safety, and I think that's who they take as their Tyrann Mathieu replacement. Bengals, who you going to have? Who you going to draft to help Joe Burrow not run around for his life? That's pretty much what they're going to be going. You could double dip, try to trade back up for Zion Johnson, but he could be in play here. He rose his stock. He started to switch more towards a center a little bit to show that versatility that he can be moved around. But I think the main guy that you go with here is Kenyon Green from Texas A&M. He was almost a top 10 pick before the season, was what many of them had him in their preseason mock drafts, but he's fallen back a little bit. But I think he's a perfect pickup for Kenyon Green for the Bengals to try to keep Joe Burrow standing up and not have any more injuries. You have the Detroit Lions with the Matthew Stafford trade from the Los Angeles Rams. Who do you go with? You could get Elam, but I think what you go with here, you got that 5th-year option. That's really important with this pick 32. If you take a quarterback with the next couple picks that's in the early second round, then you don't get that key 5th-year option. So then if you do hit on a late quarterback that you might be experimenting with besides Jared Goff, then you can actually exercise that and get an extra year and then kind of negotiate an extension then. So I think that they go with the quarterback of Sam Howell. All right. So that is my first mock draft 1.0 pre-combine for you guys. Kind of breakdown of all the picks. I do expect to be posting risers from the combine, guys that performed really well, and then some followers that might be from the combine. And I do look to be breaking down other mock drafts, posting more mock drafts. So make sure you hit that subscribe button down below to try to keep up with my videos. This is JKM. I'm out. I'll see you guys in the next video.